joining me. I'm excited to get into the A10. I feel like this is something we don't do enough here at WFUV. Is breaking down.
Of course, Aiello says no immediately.
You have Mr. A10 fanboy over here.
Absolutely.
I just happened to be in the studio.
I'm there with you. I think for a while the A10 map was my lock screen. I always like to know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's always funny. You know,
That's
one of the
cute.
things that people don't realize about the A10 is how spread out it is. It goes all the way out from Dayton
to Missouri.
to Missouri. I mean,
St.
yeah,
Louis,
exactly.
man.
I'll tell you
St.
what.
Louis even further west.
The FUV broadcasters who travel with the team know all about that.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to give credit to you guys who do that.
I have a quick story.
And Lou and Andrew who are currently holed up right now.
I have a quick story about my recent trip to St. Bonaventure with
Let's
Ryan
make it
Gregor.
quick if we could.
So on the way home, obviously when you fly up to the Buffalo Olean area, right, it's snow country, or there's skiers, probably couple Yetis maybe. On the flight home, we had really bad turbulence. I mean, like near-death experience. Okay, so I get
Thomas Aiello.
I get bad motion sickness. It's just I've had it for years with the car. I'm not as bad in the car, but the plane, forget it. Like the plane will get me. So we're on the flight home. It took them like an hour to take off because of snow, and they had to clean the plane. Turbulence, right? We hit turbulence.
It's upstate New York.
We hit turbulence.
We hit turbulence, and then all of a sudden we just drop, like boom. I'm like, whoa. I'm holding onto the chair like this for dear life. I'm like so terrified of just we might die. It was like so scary. So we get on the bus to come back to school. I'm sweating profusely. I am like so motion sick, just scared, and all the players come on the bus and they look at me. They're like, "The hell? Did you see a ghost?" I'm just like, "Yeah, whatever, man." But the A10 traveling up to Olean was not fun.
Yeah,
it was.
I'll be
like,
doing
the
it on
weather's
Tuesday.
You will be doing it Tuesday, St. Bonaventure. It's a cool arena. I do have to
fun.
say.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But
Upstate New
pray
York.
to whoever you pray to. Just
Yeah,
hope
I
you don't.
appreciate that. So yeah, breaking down the A10 now. I think it's been. I don't know if I'm taking a jump here, Thomas, but I think it's been a relatively disappointing year for the A10. I think it's obvious that it's a one conference. I mean, it's a one bid conference.
Should be zero bid, but
yeah,
continue.
and which is kind of disappointing because I don't know if you remember, but I sure do. Just a couple years ago, there'd be 3-4 names that might be fighting for an at-large bid. This year, that's not the case.
So so the Atlantic 10, the last time they sent north of 4 teams, I believe was 2014. They sent 6 teams.
That's spectacular.
5 teams in
Although it
2013.
was 10 years
One of those teams was Butler, though, so they're a one-time member. I don't really count them.
Yeah.
But I don't really know how we've gotten into this thing where the A10 is now a 1-bid league because it should be a 2 or 3 bid every year. And you're correct.
You would expect based on talent that it's a 2 or 3 bid.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the Atlantic 10, I'm going to explain this theory, the cannibal theory, right? Like,
they eat themselves?
They eat themselves. Rhode Island the other night should not be Dayton. That shouldn't happen. Like Fordham being 5th, they're good, but like they should.
Yeah.
They're overachieving right now. Richmond should be better than this. People loved Loyola Chicago preseason. I mean, they were getting like top 5 or 6 love. They're dead last in the conference.
Yeah.
It's been rough in Chicago. I don't really know how we've gotten to this point. I don't know how you climb out of it. I think losing teams to expansion, that didn't help. When Temple left, I thought that was a really big loss. Obviously, Butler, again, one-time member, but them leaving was a huge loss. And then Xavier left they left in 2013 too, another huge loss. So all these teams just leave. The quality of the conference just dips. I think that's really handicapped the A10's overall profile and reputation. I mean, sure, George Mason was an interesting ad. They haven't done much, but Dave Paulson, who's now an assistant on Fordham, had a couple good seasons over there, but ultimately fizzled out a little bit. But he's doing well as an assistant now. But you look at teams like UMass, should be way better than they are. St. Bonaventure.
Let's talk. Okay, let's talk about UMass.
You want to go to UMass? Okay.
Yeah, I think we talked about UMass a lot before the year got underway, and my argument was coaches don't score buckets, coaches don't play games, and you really
James knows all about coaches mattering for player fit as a huge USMNT guy.
We've thrown it to soccer already. Guys.
No, we're not.
Let's keep doing it.
No, we're not.
But
Continue
UMass,
on.
I mean,
guys.
let's look at the standings. UMass 3-5 in conference play, and I think that's pretty much par for the course based on their talent level. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's not a top-tier team, not an upper echelon team in this conference. Today they got Duquesne, so we'll see how that one goes. But, I mean, I think that they obviously have a new program. It's a new start of a new chapter
Yep.
with new leadership. But winning ball games is about talent you put on the floor, and I think, as we've seen with a couple teams, including Villanova, it's not about who's coaching your ball club. It's about who you got scoring buckets for.
Is that shots fired?
Not shots fired. It's just I think
Miles.
that in the case of Villanova,
Don't open this. Don't
Kyle
open this
Neptune
box.
has gotten
Don't open this.
a lot
open
of
it.
attention when, in fact, Villanova is not as talented as people thought, especially with their injuries. Pardon me. But getting back, let's keep it to the A10.
Keep it.
Yeah,
Don't
keep
open
it to
that
the
box.
A10,
Miles.
exactly.
Don't open that box. So I'll say this about UMass. I mean, they're a hockey school. Let's not kid ourselves. They're a hockey. No, I'm not. They're a hockey school.
It's Massachusetts, man.
Yeah, but their basketball team just so happens to be really good, right? You had John Calipari, his first stop. Bruiser Flint took
It's
over.
the Frank Martin hype.
So Frankie at Media Day, like the best interview at Media Day, like not even close, right?
Uh-huh.
We asked him about NIL, and he goes, well, I can't comment on that. But, there's always a but. It was 20 minutes of NIL. I think with Frank, he's still living off of the Gamecocks Final Four run way back in 2017. I think he is a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that their team isn't good. I mean, they've got good players. Matt Cross came in from Louisville. RJ Luis is a really good freshman. Noah Fernandez has been consistent for them for a while. Wildens Levesque came from South Carolina. They got a former top 100 kid, Razul Diggins from UConn. Like, this team should be better than they are.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's the first year. You don't know what you're going to get out of it. Like, if they go 500 or better, that's a success for this season. That's literally. I thought they would be top 4.
That's what I'm saying.
That's-
If they
that's
go
what I
500, that is a great way to sum up this
Yeah.
year. If they go 500, that's a win at
That's a
this
success.
point, and that was not where they started the year. James, I want to turn to you. We need to get you involved here. The A10 has been an interesting conference. They've taken a step back this year. They seem to beat themselves up a lot, but Fordham off to a pretty decent start in conference play. I think a lot of the talk surrounding Fordham was a weak non-conference schedule. Maybe they'll enter conference play and get beat up a little bit. Not the case so far. They're holding their own.
I think that's what a lot of people talked about going into the season. Such a successful preseason. The hype was real surrounding this team. You can see it on campus. You know, admittedly not the biggest of basketball schools. We'll be the first to admit it. But there was an excitement coming around, and a lot of people with what ended with the coaching situation last year probably weren't expecting that. But to use your phrase, ergonomics, it's working well. I had to sneak it in before you did.
Oh,
and
Jesus,
it's been a great 2 weeks for Fordham. You think about that road trip to get 3 on the road. That's crazy. It speaks to not only the skill you get out of guys like Quisenberry, and Will Richardson lately. He's got averaging 14 over the last
13 and a half. Yeah,
over the last 3, like
62 from 3 or something.
To be able to
like
get
that.
bench points on the road like that is huge. And we were talking about
Will starts too now.
He's
got a starting spot now. Yeah.
We were talking about how deep is this Fordham team in relation to the A10. It may not be the best, but it's up there.
Yeah.
And when you talk about down the line going into tougher games against today 2 p.m. against GW, and then you got I'll plug you real quick, and then they got St. Louis after that. But again, that's 2 games at home. That's big games. You can get results out of I'd say 1 or 2 of those, because those are 2 teams you're looking up against in the standings. I think those are real benchmarks. Good way to measure where this team's at going into the A10 tournament in a little over a month's time. So it's an exciting point for the men's team. The women's team are cruising as well. I mean, they've got the best scorer in the conference in Anna DeWolf. I said that before we got on. Arguably the greatest of all time to ever touch a school, Aiello.
No.
How do we feel? Okay.
Anna's up there.
Thought I'd bring it up
She's
again.
not.
I know she's up there.
Probably Ann Gregory.
Ann
Like
Gregory?
2,000 plus points. I think almost 2,000 rebounds, if I remember correctly.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. All American. Yeah.
Boards.
I think or close to it.
Points count
Close
as
to
2
it.
every time you do it.
They only had the 2-pointer back in the day. They didn't have a 3.
That's crazy.
The 3 didn't come in college until
70s, right?
No, the 80s.
80s.
I just wanted to plug a little Fordham
Okay.
basketball
Yeah.
history for you guys. I knew Aiello would have the answer.
So I'll say this about jump back to the men's before we get to the women.
Mhm.
The George Washington St. Louis stretch coming up here.
Yeah.
You got to try to win one of them. I mean, St. Louis I think they're the deepest team in the A10.
Well, they have a much better chance today than they do at St. Louis.
Yeah, and
there's no
GW's missing
comparison
sellout
between
crowd
the
as
two.
well.
GW's
Saturday
missing
afternoon.
guys. Yeah, we're going to have a packed house at Rose Hill. It's apparently sold out. GW's missing some dudes, so their depth's hampered a
Yeah.
little bit. But Chris Caputo, man, is, I think,
The guy.
well, he is the guy for that program. This is probably the best that they've looked since like the 2000s. Like they had Carl Hobbs was coaching the team. He's the associate head coach now at Rutgers with Steve Peichel. But this, I think, is the best
contract.
Lifetime contract. Wow. Okay, so we're really going there, Miles. I think. Look, again, their depth's hampered today, but GW, they can score the basketball. They can run with anybody in the country. In all honesty, offensively, that doesn't excuse their horrendous defense inside. Right. Their only real bigs are Noel Brown and Hunter Dean. They're okay. Like they're not world-beating bigs. They're good enough to win you basketball games, and that's what they're able to do.
I think that'll be big today because, Fordham winners of the last
huge.
3.
They're like a football
all on
team.
the road. Yeah, that's true. But when you look at this Fordham Ram team, I think their strength is, a variety of options, to say the very least. And they're winners of their last 3. Now they return home as GW, and then they get to stay home, which is very comforting. But this first game against GW, I know you're locked into this one. I think it's going to come down to the bigs, would you say, for the Fordham Rams?
I would say, that, and if you can slow down James Bishop, Max Edwards, and Brendan Adams, because the 3 of them can score the lights out of the basketball.
Yeah.
Right? Bishop he's had 40, I think, twice this year. Maximus Edwards is probably the second best transfer in the Atlantic 10 this year. The whole offensive thing they've got going on over there is really, really working out for them.
Yeah.
And you've got to find a way to stop those quick scoring guards. I think defensively for Fordham, it's just about you got to force them into a bad spot. That's really, you got to send traps, give them different looks, throw them off, force a bad pass. I don't know. Do you wall up and send Bishop to a corner and force him to make a cross-court pass? That's probably one of the ways I think they're going to try and slow him down today.
Yeah, Bishop a veteran. He's gotten really good.
And he transferred in from LSU.
Mm-hmm.
So and someone said, I forget who said this, but it was on Twitter, when you're recruiting during the pandemic, you're just kind of guessing. You were kind of guessing.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't really know who could play at a SEC level, right? You didn't know who could play at an A10 level. Maybe you got a guy in the A10 who's a Big East talent.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, right? You didn't really know.
You're saying that's the case here, potentially?
Well, with Bishop, it clearly was because he wasn't good at LSU.
Yeah.
And he's exploded at GW. I think you can say the same for Abdu Simbila, right? Like, he was not really.
Yeah.
I love Abdu.
Well, he never got the minute. He never got the
He
opportunity.
never played, yeah. Nicest kid in the world, like such a sweet kid. Just was not a Big Ten talent. He comes here, and last year, the second half, you remember this, Miles, but he picked up a ton of steam in the back half of A10 play. Mm-hmm. And then this year, he's still got a lot of steam going. Defensively, he's still really good, but offensively, he's still hit or miss a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I think you got bigs, though, that are huge. If you got big guys in the paint, compete with the Dayton, the Duran Holmes, you got a good chance to win.
So Fordham, winners of the last 3, a red hot team. I'm excited for this one. But
yeah,
you
are really. I couldn't know.
I do want to turn to the women's team before we wrap up this segment, because Fordham women's basketball finds themselves in St. Louis, Missouri this afternoon.
What's even out there besides the arch and
they
the
got Busch
They
Stadium.
got a new soccer team.
Yeah, exactly.
They do. Oh, wait, what's it called?
St. Louis City SC, which is.
Oh, nice.
What?
I was saying this yesterday.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I was like, it's a mouthful. Like, they could have done something with the Gateway Arch in the name. Like, it was supposed to be unique. We sound like every other country.
You could have
making
just
soccer
been like,
teams.
you could have at least done like McDonald's themed colors for the team.
With the arch, you know?
Yeah, you
It
could have
looks
done
like
a
an M.
McDonald's
There
theme.
you go.
Come on, man.
So
It's boring.
Fordham out there a little bit west this weekend in St. Louis. And Fordham, a team that's had an up and down year. They had a difficult non-conference stretch by winning all the kind of the equivalent of bye games, what you'd call them in men's, where you have a worse quality team come into your building. But then when they went on the road to Maryland and Princeton and challenged themselves, they did come up short, but they battled against some really talented, high net ranking teams, and now they find themselves 8 games into A10 play, 6-2 in conference that's number 3, right behind Rhode Island and UMass. And while I think the conference as a whole has taken a step back, Fordham has kept themselves in the upper echelon of the conference, but I'm not sure if they have what it takes to even battle or beat that UMass Rhode Island. It seems that there's a significant drop-off between the 1-2 and then Fordham at the 3. I don't know if you guys agree with me there.
I would agree with that, and I would say there's an even bigger drop-off when you get to like 7 to 8, like right around the middle of the pack, and that's probably where the biggest change in the A10. You said it's a down year. I would say there's a clear divide between who is the best and who is the worst, and we can't say that about the men's because we talked about cannibal
theory.
The cannibal theory.
That's what happened. Like that, the men's side it's more apparent. The women's side's way more balanced. But
way more balanced for sure. And I think Fordham, went through a tough stretch coming off of that GW game a couple weeks ago and the UMass game. But since then, on the road to St. Joe's, we mentioned that St. Joe's team is not, in that upper echelon. That Fordham has now emerged into becoming that third place team. They're in a good spot. But to go on the road, Philly, get a win, that's a big game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think for Fordham, for the women's team, now this is a little bit more coaching-centric take, but Candace Green, love her, great woman, great coach, I think. Probably should get the full-time tag after this year, but some of the long-term outlook of this team, Anna DeWolf's a senior, Carpel's a senior, Downey's a grad student, Megan Jonason's a grad student, Jada DePazio. I can keep going here, right? You got, what do you got? 6 or 4 grad students, and you got 2 seniors. You don't know what the future of the team is going to be. Is Anna DeWolf going to come back for the 5th year? Is Carpel going to come back for the 5th year? We're not entirely sure what the status of that is. Remains to be seen. But the long-term feature of this program is kind of up in the air. Again, because
no doubt about that.
Yeah, and
this is a win now year.
I think, right now you got to try and go for it. Like, you beat Davidson, you beat VCU, you beat Dayton. Those teams are not good in the Atlantic 10 for the women's side. GW is pretty good. Duquesne, you beat them. UMass has Sam Breen, and she didn't even play that well.
She didn't even play that well. That's a credit to Fordham because they absolutely double-teamed Sam and shut her down.
And Anna had 34 in that game, I believe, right? 33, whatever it was?
Yeah,
points?
I think it was 33.
Dingle had 16 points, and that was the game Megan Jonason went down. I think losing her is a big loss because you kind of kill yourself with the rebounding battle in every game. Not to say that Fordham can't rebound the ball, not that DePaz not a good rebounding and defensive player, because she is, but having Megan Jonason in there just kind of opens up
Wait, you said you had let's hear the coaching take.
Oh, the coaching take, yeah. So I'm kind of rambling here, but the coaching take is I think this is the year for Candace Green to show, if I have a good team, this is what it would look like.
Absolutely.
This is like with Shaheen Holloway at Seton Hall, right? This year, you're kind of just whatever, man. Just go out there and coach. Just show us what you could be.
Absolutely.
That's what Candace is doing. Is she going to get? I think she should get the job. And I think long term, this is what a Candace Green team, when they're really good, would look like. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't give her the full-time job.
Yeah, and I think there's no doubt that this is a win now year for the Fordham Rams
absolutely.
women's basketball team.
Absolutely.
They have so much veteran talent. They
They're
have
old.
arguably the oldest team in all of NCAA, at least the oldest starting 5, according to our assistant SID Ryan. But he couldn't confirm that with all the SIDs, but
they're
is
one
under
of the
oldest. Impression
yeah.
they're the oldest, and it's a win now year because of it. Because at the end of this year, you know what kind of talent you're going to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, Meg Jonason for a fact gone, Caitlin Downey for a fact gone, Asia Dingle for a fact gone.
That's a big
Jada DePaz for a fact gone. The 2 that will have the opportunity to take that 5th would be the pair of Carpel and DeWolf.
Yeah.
But I think there's no doubt about it. When you think about it, that the only stars that you have the capability of keeping would be Carpel and DeWolf. This team gets gutted at the end of the year.
Yeah.
There's no way around that. That's the elephant in the room. This is a win now year.
That's the good thing about the portal, though, is you can just go and replace that.
And they grabbed a Jada DePaz, and I think I could see them.
And that's a good fit for them, too.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about that. And I think there's a lot of, not that there's a lot of Jada DePaz, but there's a lot of talent in that lower Division I NEC level that are looking to come to a higher mid-major.
Birle?
I'm just saying that's a lot of pressure on now an interim coach becoming a full-time coach and bringing in recruiting.
Exactly.
That's a huge responsibility. Good on them for getting really good results in what is, like you said, a must-win year. That's already a lot of pressure on a first-year coach.
Yeah.
So,
and they've changed up the scheme too, right? The scheme under Coach Gately was defense first, and it was a lot more X's and O's offensively, a lot of screening action, off-ball movement, but it was a lot of Anna DeWolf shoot the ball and hope for the best, right?
Yeah, and if you keep DeWolf and Carpel, that's just guards, really. So you have to replace an entire whole unit of the team.
A whole front line has to get rebuilt again.
And that's not to mention that this year they play their veterans virtually the entire game. When those young players touch the court, it's because this game is over. And so it's Rose Nelson is getting some valuable minutes now in A10 play as a freshman, which is great. But it's safe to say, the Fordham Rams get gutted at the end of the year. This is a must-win year, and I don't know if they necessarily have what it takes to win the conference, but no doubt about they will make a dent in the A10 tournament. We know that for a fact, and I'm a big fan of Candace Green myself. I hope she gets that interim tag removed
Applause
as soon
for
as
Candace
possible.
Green.
It's certainly been earned.
She's
to say the
absolutely.
least.
I'll say this again as well. So I just want to touch on the young group of the women's team. I think Colleen McQuillan, obviously, she stands out. She's a little bit above the
Pure
rest of them.
shooter.
Pure shooter,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like an Anna DeWolf light type of player. Like she does not afraid to shoot the ball. I think, but no, like you got to think about it this way. Like you need
a little
someone
different.
You need someone to shoot the basketball, right?
Yeah.
And if Anna's not going to be here next year, if let's say she just goes to Big East school, which she probably could, and she's good
She
enough,
could, but she's
good enough to do it.
She could,
well,
I'd
we
be-
don't know that.
I'd be shocked.
We don't know that, but I think someone like Colleen having Anna there, and maybe, who knows, if she gets to play Robin next year with Anna, I think that's still a 500 team, assuming they get good kids from the portal.
I'd hope so.
Right?
I'd hope so.
You just sort of have to get that younger group involved, like Pappas and Ashley O'Connor, right? They all got to start playing a little bit.
A lot of question marks
Yeah.
with that young core, to say the very least. But that's all the time we have for A10 men's basketball.
that's sad.
Unfortunately, I know.
That's sad
Men's
for me.
basketball in action this afternoon against George Washington. Tune into our coverage of the game with our very own Thomas Aiello on
Yes,
color
sir.
commentary later this afternoon. And women's basketball in St. Louis this evening. Lou Orlando and Andrew Galata on the call. That'll be on our Spreaker
We got a
page.
loaded day today.
Yeah.
We got a
It's
loaded
big
day.
day.
Two
Look at
good
that.
games, two winnable games for
Good
the
day to be a
Fordham
Ram.
Rams.
Oh,
Abso-
let's not call everything winnable. Anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah.
Making them winnable.
That's
Hey,
why. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
This is true.
Sports
this is also
being
true.
winnable. That's what we do this
This
for.
is also true.
But that'll do it for our A10 talk. Thanks so much, Thomas and James. We'll be right back here on One on One.